If the United States had state-run media, wouldn't it also have state-run churches? Well, it turns out we do. And that process has been going on since the 40s. Until now, under 501c3, churches tell their flocks, if you're at a church picnic, don't talk about politics. There is no law. The so-called regulations turn a church into a charity, and then now it's no longer a church, it's a state-run charity. That's the alchemy that is engaged in. Just like the private Federal Reserve took over from the issuance of currency and credit by the Congress, but called itself federal, and the power of the purse was removed in 1913, December 23rd. Joining us for the balance of the hour, a little bit into the next, is Pastor Chuck Baldwin, and his last column was his most read ever, and we're going to repost it right now to Infowars.com, dealing with the pastors deliberately misleading their flocks. And to me, more and more, this is the big issue, because you'll have a lot of good rhetoric in these big mega churches, even small ones, but they're getting state-run information to get the faith-based initiative money. And that's why they won't go out and stop abortion. They won't criticize Obama. They won't do anything. But if you're a, quote, liberal church, you can say GD America and, you know, all the rest of it, and let's turn our guns in. That's okay. So to fight back against this is Pastor Chuck Baldwin. He's been fighting hard for a long time. He came out with his best-selling book a few years ago that we sell at InfoWarsStore.com. We're 10% off everything until next week. Back-to-school special. Romans 13, The True Meaning of Submission, second edition, with Timothy Baldwin, his son, and more. I'm going from memory. Isn't Timothy a constitutional lawyer? I can't remember. He's a great interview as well. Pastor Baldwin, this is a short segment, long segment coming up. I want to get into the initiative some now, but then mainly into why we need this initiative and plug the website. It's a beautiful new site, and I know this initiative is already exploding, even though you just announced it, because the people are ready to be let out of Egypt right now. As soon as they learn they're actually in a government temple with a government operative up there on the balcony making them all feel good, I have a feeling this whole facade's going to crumble.
Hey, thanks, Alex. Yeah, you're exactly right. And yeah, my son is the constitutional attorney, and he and I wrote the book on Romans 13 to debunk this ridiculous theory that Christians are supposed to submit to government no matter what. And they use Romans 13 as the predicate for that, and of course it's erroneous, to say the least. So we expose all that scripturally using both the Old and the New Testament to prove categorically that nowhere does God expect his people to submit to tyranny, no matter what government may say contrary. But the column you referred to is George Barna just came out with some fantastic research, a 2-year project where that he was studying the churches and their political involvement, and if they were not involved, why not? And as a result of this survey, he released some information that I thought was really fascinating, one of which was that 90% of the pastors told him in the research that they knew that the Bible spoke to all of these political issues that we're dealing with today as a country, and yet they refused to deal with those issues. Now, to me, that was a staggering revelation, because usually what you'll hear these preachers say is that, well, God hadn't called me to preach on that. I'm just supposed to preach the gospel. These things aren't relevant to the Bible. You know, pick the subject. It doesn't matter. The Scripture is silent on these issues. And that's what a lot of times you will hear. But the survey said that they know that the Bible speaks to all of these issues, but they are not going to address them because they're controversial, which means that they are deliberately refusing to address the truth. They are choosing to not tell their people the truth. They know what they're doing, that it's not ignorance. A lot of times, you know, they say, well, my pastor would, you know, he just doesn't realize what's going on.
It's premeditated deception. Exactly. Which ups the crime in God's eyes up big time.
I agree with that totally. It is premeditated deception. This was a fascinating revelation. So now we can throw ignorance out forever as an excuse as to why these preachers are not willing to deal with the issues and tell their people what's going on.
Going back to Pastor Chuck Baldwin here in just a moment. First off, please don't forget this hour is brought to you by the great folks at mypatriotsupply.com/Alex. There you'll find some of the best storable foods out there at very affordable, low prices. It's non-GMO. They've got great customer service and a lot of other key preparedness items. mypatriotsupply.com/Alex. All right, Pastor Chuck Baldwin, I'm going to try to give you the floor now to break down, and we have just posted the state-run church's article to the top of Infowars.com in the featured news. It just went live about 20 seconds ago, I'm told. So folks need to hit refresh on Infowars.com. I'm also going to put your column out on Facebook. We're going to send it out right now on Twitter. Tweet that for me as well, guys. This national survey and 2 years of research confirming the preachers know that they are deceiving people about what's happening. And again, the First Amendment clearly says Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or the press, and then it goes on to the rest of it. So how did the churches get to the point of saying, hey, you can't say abortion's wrong. Hey, you can't say Obama's a liar. Hey, you can't say funding Al-Qaeda is wrong. You just, I mean, I've talked to people from Baptist churches, that have, friends of mine, that have given me the printouts where they tell them, when you go to any Bible luncheon or you go to any retreat or anything, don't talk about politics or we're in violation of 501c3. So they've migrated that now from the preacher being a state-run church front man or woman down now to you're not even supposed to talk about anything with anybody from the church. I mean, these are now state-run cults. And if a tree fell and nobody heard it, did it make a sound? I talk to these preachers, some of these big megachurch preachers, and I'll say, hey, are you part of the clergy response team? And they'll go from being all fake and nice to like, hey, I can't talk to you. So a lot of them, it's beyond just being scared. They are knowing agents of the state. They think that secures them not being messed with the IRS. They ought to be worried about God. They ought to be worried about what this country's turning into, even if they don't even believe in God, and they're just a fake preacher there to make money. A lot of them are. Shouldn't they be worried about where this country's going? Pastor, break it down for folks.
Well, you're exactly right. And at the end of the column, I mentioned the part of the survey that you just alluded to, where that they asked the survey question at the end that I relate is, what is the reason for this? And in the article, I exposed how that 90% of the pastors that were surveyed indicate that they know that the Bible speaks to these salient issues that you deal with every day, and so do I. But they refuse to deal with them because they're controversial. And in the article, it also points out the 5 measures of success that the pastors look to determine the success of their work. And those 5 items are attendance, giving, number of programs, number of staff, and square footage of their building. That's the things they look to. As far as they're concerned, that's the measure of their success. It's amazing to me that they have nothing in there. Where do you find that in the book of Acts? Where do you find that in the early church? Where do you find any of that in the Bible whatsoever? Attendance, giving, number of programs, number of staff, square footage. So anything that they think is going to diminish any one of those 5 item success items are going to be avoided like the plague by these pastors. And so they refuse to deal with the issues, even though they know that they are biblically based. Now, to me, that was a great revelation, because now we're not talking about ignorance. We're talking about deliberate disobedience. So when you get down to the bottom of the article and you say, okay, what was the number one reason why the pastors refused to deal with the issues, outside the fact that it's controversial and it may interfere with their success? And you got it. The 501c3 IRS tax exempt status, turning churches into nonprofit charity corporations. So now we see where it's more than just the fear of not being successful. It's more than just, all right, I may lose people, I may lose giving, I may lose my success rate among the community. It's more than that. Now it's fear of losing tax-exempt status, fear of losing the contributions that may result from the loss of tax-exempt status. So, of course, this goes back to 1954 when LBJ, then senator, introduced this monster into the Senate. It became law, and now we've been dealing with it for all these years. And it, of course, has evolved to what it is today. And what it is today is an axe that's being held over the necks of the pastors, intimidating them from saying anything that might be deemed political, and as you know, especially on the so-called conservative side of the issue, so that they will be silenced as a church, which is the greatest opportunity, the greatest force for good in the country is the pulpits of America. I mean, where would America be, Alex, without the Black Regiment pastors of colonial America in 1775 and 76? Where would we have been? There would have been no Bunker Hill. There would have been no shot fired heard around the world. There would have been no Declaration of Independence. There would have been no separation from Great Britain. It all began from the patriot pulpits in America, where the pastors were speaking out for freedom and liberty and showing them the biblical reasons for this, that this is not just something that's a political issue, but this is a spiritual issue. It's a Bible issue. And here's why, chapter and verse. Here's the principle. Here is the doctrine. And they taught those issues to the people so that when the time came for those gallant men to stand on Lexington Green, which was just outside the church house at the Church of Lexington, where most of those men worshiped every Sunday with their muskets in hand in the early morning hours of April 19, 1775, and withstood the British, and 8 men immediately lost their lives when the British opened fire, and our Revolutionary War began. That could have never happened except that Pastor Jonas Clark, pastor of the Church of Lexington, had for years and years taught his men these fundamental principles of liberty.
That's right. And the British newspapers, as I know you write in your book, but I've looked it up, it's on record, cursed what they called the Black Brigades, and they knew full well who led the American Revolution.
Absolutely, and they gave due credit. That's why they call them the Black Regiment, because they saw them as the leaders of the rebellion, of the fight for revolution. And they knew that the pastors were the ones that were giving them the moral and the spiritual inspiration to do what needed to be done. So what do we not have today that they had then? I mean, there's a lot of things that are exciting going on.
The enemy knew what to do. They captured the church.
That's right.
Turned it into a government instrument.
That's right. That's what we don't have. We don't have the patriot pulpit, Alex. And that's the whole purpose of my initiative, the Liberty Church Project, which it took me 2 months to launch. But now we have the money to do it, and we're launching. The application form is live. People around the country who want to start a non-501c3 church can go to the website, they can fill out the application, and we can begin the process of trying to go around the country and help these people start fresh, new, non-501c3 churches. And get this, there's a lot of pastors around the country, ordained ministers, hundreds of them that I know of, who are wanting a congregation that's not 501c3. You got to remember that there's a lot of these pastors whose eyes have awakened as well, Alex, and they're wanting to get out of that 501c3 system, and they want to find a group of people that are willing to have a non-501c3 church. And they, if we can get together these ministers, kind of like a glorified eHarmony.com, where we're matching these independent pastors that are willing to speak out on the issues, and these people that are sick and tired of these 501c3 churches where the pastors refuse to say anything from the pulpit that's controversial, and get these people together so that they can start some brand new non-501c3 churches. And you're right also, Alex, when you said that this could change the country, because the way the pulpits go, the way that the church goes, is the way that the nation goes. And if we can, over the next several years, make so that there could be hundreds of brand new non-501c3 churches starting up, people beginning to get aware, the message is going out, people are coming in. I mean, it could be revolutionary. The hope of America has never been in the White House. It's always been in the church house.
And if you look at the last 50 years since the CIA on record took over the big churches and pushed the megachurch agenda and used it as a front and others, it's been about turn them into self-help motivational speakers who go in and make everybody feel good and then make the preacher a deity and then turn it into a big social club where there's a country club at the church and everybody vacations with the church and you do business with the church and I guess you cheat on your wife at the church. I mean, really, they've just become country clubs. And you know, literally up there just to push the establishment line, just to make a bunch of people feel good. And I've done an analysis of this. You go back to the Rockefeller Foundation, the World Council of Churches, the National Council of Churches, the ecumenical movement, all of it. You go from the conservative churches that aren't involved politically now to the so-called leftist churches. Man, they are Bill and Melinda Gates, eugenics, world government, open borders, take the crosses out, New Age. I mean, I've been to the big churches in Austin, the big leftist churches, and I mean, it is frightening. Just like every Disney movie, the leader's a woman, men are bad. Well, the preachers are all women, and Obama's Jesus. And, I mean, they really know what they're doing. And because I've gone and watched it, and you go watch these preachers, they know what they're doing. These are agents of the state running psyops, and we even have the documents. I mean, that's the issue here, folks, is that America is falling. Look at how they've got mainline Baptist charities promoting open borders and to bring the illegals up. Right. And then the churches get $6,000 for every 3 kids and are making money off of it. These are pure businesses. I want to cover topics with you now, but first, give out the website. We've got it on screen, chuckbaldwinlive.com. There's a link there, but how do folks find the Liberty Church Project?
Well, if they go to libertychurchproject.com.
LibertyChurchProject.com. Right. LibertyChurchProject.com. We're going to tweet that address out as well. It's in your column that we just reposted to Infowars.com. But I want to cover the waterfront. Look at the judgment against America. Look at how the floodgates are opening. I believe, and I can feel it, that the hedge, or like a gate, or castle walls, have now fallen about 30%. And I've been describing this the last few years as they're down 10%, they're down 20%. Now they're down to 30, and now they're falling fast. In the next few years, Al-Qaeda is being openly funded and protected. The borders are wide open. World government's being announced. Obama and the executive is operating by executive fiat on every front. New fines, fees, regulations, global taxes. The flood of evil is coming in, and I wanted you to speak to that. To the borders, to just everything that's happening right now.
Yeah, well, and is it not the job of the pastor to be the watchman on the wall? I mean, Alex, this is the thing that just bugs the stew out of me. The whole concept of the shepherd, the minister, is that he's a watchman on the wall. He is the man that stands up in the pulpit Sunday by Sunday and warns his people, the flock, the sheep of the church, of the danger of the impending wolves, no matter what that might be. You know, it could be a local issue. It could be strictly a spiritual issue within the congregation, or it could be a community issue. It could be a national issue, like you're describing this border issue right now. I mean, and you're right. They use the churches to fulfill the agenda that they have. And in the border situation, we see this constantly, where they're using the pastors and the churches to promote the open border concept. And the average pastor who, in his heart, knows right from wrong, and he knows that it's harmful to his country, he knows it's harmful to his grandkids, he knows it's harmful to freedom, and yet because of his fear of the 501c3 tax-exempt status, his fear of losing attendance, offerings, his fear of maybe not being able to build the bigger building, and let's not forget this too, a lot of these churches are head over heels in debt. They are up to their eyeballs in indebtedness. And if they have a 5 to 10% disruption in income, they are really going to feel it. I mean to tell you, they are just to the max in debt. And so they're out there looking at their crowd and they say, you know, if I say something controversial, I may lose 5% of my crowd, 5% of my giving. I can't meet the payroll. I've got staff. I've got insurance. I've got retirement benefits. Now, I've got all these obligations financially to deal with. And so they have got themselves in a place and they don't want to speak out because of all these factors combined. So the result is what, Alex? They're not watchmen anymore.
It's not a church. It's not a church. It's a self-help country club, and the whole country's going to hell in a handbasket.
11 o'clock on Sunday morning in the average church. You know what it is, Alex? It's Christian happy hour. That's exactly what it is. It's Christian happy hour. And we've lost the truth. We've lost the entire principle of truth. And the reason is that one of the reasons, I think one of the biggest reasons, is the 501c3 tax exempt status. And that's why, I mean, what I'm doing now is the result of like over a year of deliberation and prayer and how can I do that? What can I do? And people were calling me and writing me all the time, Chuck, what can we do out here?
This is it. No, this is huge. This strikes right at the root of it, right at the heart of it. And the churches have been conned. People want a mission. People want leadership. People want the challenge. They want to hear how bad it is because they already deep down know how bad it is. They want to be led against evil. They don't want to sit around at a government-run church with some fake preacher up there about how great he is, who's just up there basically eyeing all the widows so they can suck money out of them so he can go on a bigger vacation. Those places aren't churches, and people need to get out of them. We'll be back with Pastor Chuck Baldwin.
This hour brought to you by InfidelBodyArmor.com. When it hits the fan, don't be left without the body armor that will save your life. With prices starting at just $374.99 and ships free. Get yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Just won't quit.
Teenagers like me used to think our parents were just weird because they put their phones and computers inside those flimsy little fake leather cases. Then my folks both got a Block-It Pocket. Mom knows it keeps her safe from the phone's radiation. Dad knows it keeps his information private. I like my Block-It Pocket because it blocks hacking and tracking. Awesome. BlockItPocket.com has other cool stuff too. Guess my parents aren't so weird. Get your Block-It Pocket at BlockItPocket.com.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
This is Alex Jones for InfoWarsLife.com. The latest in preparedness is now here. An electrically stabilized colloidal silver solution that can be added to both your home cabinet and preparedness pack alike. Concentrated to 30 parts per million in what has been dubbed the survival silver solution. The new InfoWars Life Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver is the answer for you and your family. And it's entirely free of toxic artificial additives that are loaded into many products. The InfoWars Life Silver Bullet Silver is so powerful that it is concentrated into a 2-ounce bottle and is not recommended for extended continual use. This is not a low-grade formula. We are working with one of the top laboratory manufacturers in the United States to bring you the best form of colloidal silver using electrical processes within a base of deionized water for your preparedness storage or your home kitchen. Purchase your bottle of InfoWarsLife.com Silver Bullet Colloidal Silver today and find other amazing supplements at InfoWarsLife.com.
If you owe the IRS back taxes, listen carefully. Sweeping changes to IRS policies will help more people than ever eliminate their tax debts once and for all. And now, I can help you reduce or eliminate your tax debts and end your tax nightmare. Hi, I'm Dan Pilla. I've helped thousands of people reduce and eliminate tax debts they couldn't pay. And after more than 30 years of experience dealing with the IRS, I can tell you there's no such thing as a hopeless tax case. And with the IRS's new policies, it's easier than ever to put your tax debt behind you once and for all. Call now at 800-346-6829 to learn how I can help you. You know your IRS debt will not go away by itself, but you don't have to live in fear anymore. Call 800-346-6829. Learn how I can help you eliminate wage and bank levies, release tax liens, and negotiate a settlement with the IRS that will put your tax nightmare behind you forever. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to taxhelponline.com. That's taxhelponline.com.
People say, hey, let us have a big centralized government that runs everything and cares about us. No, it is a predatory globalist system, and that's why we're in so much trouble. And I have been to a lot of churches, folks, and very few of them have the courage to tell the truth. I've found there's actually a lot of 501c3 churches now that are criticizing the criminal government and are telling the truth. So I think you either do one of two things or both. You go and you set up your own 501c3 outside of it and find people that want to support so you can reach out in the community with the truth. Or you do what a lot of churches have done and pledge to break the blockade where they claim that churches don't have a right to the First Amendment. Now, I get they claim, well, you're no longer a church, you're a 501c3, but they still act like you're a church. So you can hold the First Amendment up there. I think it trumps that whole charity law because it's all fraud-based. It's kind of like people 20 years ago didn't know the Federal Reserve was private and would laugh at you if you said it and the ADL said it was racist. Now almost everyone in national polls knows it's private. They want it audited or abolished. We've passed it twice in the House to audit it, and the Senate's killed it. So we've gone from nowhere to somewhere. And Chuck, again, Pastor Chuck Baldwin's our guest right now. I think that's really the good news here is people don't know what they've had until it's gone. And there is an awakening happening. But it's more of a division. People are either waking up and they're getting more awake or they're falling deeper into delusion. But the people that are in delusion, I found, aren't even really conscious. And so they're not even really in the game. So there's a lot of positive things happening right now. And if our listeners will go out and show this to their pastors, challenge them, and then hold their feet to the fire, I think a lot of them will make the decision to do the right thing. But separately, what about the movement? Because I know you're aware of all the different developments out there that I've seen of even big churches to say, no, we're going to say no to the system. We're not going to be bullied, especially when Democratic-affiliated so-called churches can do whatever they want politically. So I'm saying even within the 501c3 system, it's not equally enforced, so it's a fraud.
Yeah, it's not equally enforced. In fact, it's more intimidation than anything else. Look, I used to pastor a 501c3 church, Alex, as you know. And I remember I would get about twice a year, I would get a letter in the mail from usually a law firm representing the IRS. And it would say, okay, as a pastor, here's the things you can do, point, point, point. Here's the things you can't do, point, point, point. As a church, here's what you can do. Here's what you can't do. I would get that about twice a year. Now, I would just throw it in the garbage can. It didn't faze me a bit.
And by the way, you had a big church.
It was fairly big, yeah. And we were still preaching and we were putting out the message, etc. And we were 501c3. But what I'm telling you, the problem is when 95% or more of the pastors receive those letters in the mail, and they are frequent. They're at least a couple, 3 times a year they're going to get these. And they go over these things point by point. 95% of them are going to submit. 95% of them are going to be...
Can you imagine if the Pharisees would have told Christ what he could preach?
Well, I just preached yesterday from John 7. The Pharisees hated Jesus from the beginning. They did everything they could to silence him and then to kill him. And he was constantly at war with Pharisees. And it was nothing more than what we see today, the modern-day elitism today. The Pharisees of old are the modern-day elitists today, the globalists. They're it's the same group of people. They're the ones that are trying to silence the truth. And that 501c3 tax-exempt status was an ingenious invention by Lyndon Johnson to accomplish exactly...
Hey, it's LBJ created the welfare and ruined the community. Yep. They just ruined everything. They know what they're doing. Finishing up with Chuck Baldwin, Pastor Chuck Baldwin with his initiative. People want to do something, this is it. Go to your mega churches, talk to your pastor, try to get them to talk about the big picture and how the state's trying to fully take over churches. And if they're scared to talk about that, well, they're not a church. We all grew up hearing about the Soviet Union, and it allowed state-run churches. China allows state-run churches. They're just state-run. The churches that get shut down are the ones that aren't. And we're only a few steps away from that. Thank God there's enough Americans out there and enough pastors who've been basically ignoring this. But if you want to see where we're going, again, if you look at what so-called leftist churches are doing, really authoritarian churches, from Austin to San Francisco, from Dallas to Chicago, they are nothing but Democratic Party, New World Order, Cloward and Piven centers. And they're calling for totally open borders right now that they know will collapse the country. I mean, these are really sinister organizations. Chuck, any closing points on that?
Yeah, Alex, I want to thank you very much. I want to encourage people to go to the website, chuckbaldwinlive.com, and from that point, they can access the Liberty Church Project. I just want to appeal to people again, because, Alex, you've got a lot of listeners out there right now that they know the truth, and they're Christian people. They want a non-501c3 church where they can fellowship. They're tired of the cowardice of their pastors. They're tired of the way the people in congregations look at them like they're from Mars because they stand for the truth. They want to join together with like-minded fellow patriots in a Christian church and worship the Lord as they know they should. And they can't find those pastors and churches. We are helping people all over the country to start brand new non-501c3 fellowships. We are bringing ministers together with people who want to have a patriot pulpit. There's a lot of ministers out there that are not able to minister freely in the denomination and the churches where they are. And they're looking for churches that are willing to have a patriot pastor join them. And there are people out there that are wanting a patriot pastor. And so what we're doing is all they got to do is go to the website, libertychurchproject.com, fill out the application. Someone from my office will be in touch with them. We'll start the process. We will, at some point, if everything, all our ducks in a row and they're really serious about it, we will go visit them. I have a team of people that are going to be with me. This is a big project. We come in and we help these people start non-501c3 churches.
And you've done this. You've started them all over the country. You've started your own successfully, right, and helped other churches there in the mountain area you are, Wyoming, Montana area.
That's right.
And it's very exciting. And so big things have small beginnings. And you've already had a huge effect, Chuck, with tens of millions of people, with syndicated radio and the big church you built in Florida, and then leaving that big church and going and setting up a non-501c3. So you've walked the walk, you've talked the talk and then walked the walk. You've gone out there, you've done it. We salute you, Pastor Chuck Baldwin. But I mean, regardless, even if people aren't Christians and are secular, they should realize having free independent churches that promote liberty is a good thing, not having state-run media. Everyone recognizes state-run media, state-run churches is the hallmark of a tyranny.
Absolutely. In fact, here at our church at Liberty Fellowship in Kalispell, Montana, we have unbelievers, non-Christians that attend our service every Sunday because they love the message of truth. This is liberty is for everybody, not just for somebody. It's for everybody.
Yeah, that's what I found. We don't Bible thump here, and we get more people to come to Christ. It's the same thing you do. Yeah. And, of course, a lot of those folks you've told me that are coming that are non-believers, they end up finding Christ, don't they?
That's right. Most of them do, Alex.
Very exciting. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, Alex.
Hi, I'm Shane Steiner. A lot of you have been following my progress using Super Male Vitality. The last 19 weeks has been an incredible experience. I was feeling a little down and lethargic during the holidays, and none of the supplements that I was taking were doing any good. That's when my longtime friend from high school, Alex Jones, introduced me to Super Male Vitality. I was a little skeptical at first. Not only would I have the energy to work out and go to the gym, but it was actually the changes were happening to my body a lot more rapidly. My whole mood, my libido, everything had completely changed. The concentrated organic herbs, they stimulate your natural systems to produce the natural hormones that you need. I just really wanted to bulk up and hit it hard, and I went in for about the first 5 weeks and was lifting heavy weight and just really hitting it hard, and I gained 20 pounds of muscle immediately. Since that, I've decided I was going to lose some weight and slim down. I just changed up my workout a little bit, and 35 pounds came off. Folks, this is not a joke. This is not a gimmick, it's real. Super Male Vitality, available at InfoWarsLife.com.